Hello and welcome to this Concord webinar. We are so glad you're here. Thank you for choosing to spend the next hour or so with us as we go over the webinar titled Top 5 Tools to Get More Out of Concord. We think you'll really enjoy this one. My name is Will Adler and I'm a member of the Concord team, and I'll be leading today's program and demonstrations. So the number one question we get asked whenever we do a webinar is this webinar being recorded? And I can say for sure, yes, the webinar is being recorded and it will be available to you and your friends shortly after this event. And now that we've become, you could say, seasoned veterans in the webinar space, our team has come up with 3 tips for you to get the most out of today's webinar. The first tip is to enjoy the webinar, enjoy the show. You know, we're all here to learn. It's an educational webinar, but it should be enjoyable. So as we're going, if there's something that trips you up, don't worry about it. We're recording. And we'll just keep going right along. The second tip is kind of along the same lines, is don't dwell on it. If we're going and I might be demonstrating something too fast or you want to see something again, that's okay. You can always let us know, and if we can, we'll go back to it later. Or again, you can view the webinar, the replay that we'll send out soon with timestamps to the specific topics we're covering today. And then the third, and I think the most important tip, is to think about how you use Concord. We all use Concord differently. Some of us use Concord just to search the books, and others are using Concord to create readings for their church meetings or church services. And so I encourage you to take today to consider how these features can fit into what you're already doing. There's no right way to use Concord. And so we're hoping today, as we introduce some of these features, you consider which ones you'd like to pick up and add to your practice here. So with that, we'll talk about our agenda for today. We're going to start with a brief orientation to Concord, just so that we can level set and bring everyone up to the same place for today's features. After that, we'll hit the demonstrations. We'll be going over Wildcard search and range search. After that, we'll talk about favorites. Then we'll go into the read panel and learn about the Scriptural Quotations, which is my personal favorite feature in all of Concord. After that, we'll go over creating a list. And then finally, we'll close out going over print preview and how you can use that to review and edit your lists. Then we'll do Q&A afterwards, questions and answers. And you can submit your questions and I'll do my best to answer those. If you are not familiar with Zoom's Q&A feature, you'll want to look for it on the bottom bar of the Zoom screen. So just take your mouse, move it on the screen, and look for the Q&A feature. Click on that, and then you can type in your question, and we'll either answer the question live in the demonstrations, we'll get to it during the questions and answers section, or we'll follow up with you after the event. All right, so let's get going. I'm going to load into Concord here, and Concord was really designed to work from left to right. So if we're looking at Concord now, you can see we have 3 main panels. On the left-hand side, we have what we call the Study Tools panel. In the center is the Read panel, and on the right-hand side is the List panel. And I'm going to really simplify this. In the Study Tools panel over here, it's all about one thing, searching. In the center, in the Read panel, all about reading the books. And then on the right-hand side, in the List panel, it's all about saving that inspiration. So I'll show you a little bit. Let's go to the Study Tools panel here. And I can type in a search in the search bar, any word or phrase, like gratitude, for instance. And then I can click the magnifying glass search icon or return on my keyboard, and it will launch the search. And just like that, Concord has found 106 results on gratitude. And if I open one of those up from Science and Health, you can see that once that opens, you can click on the citation on the search result here, and it will open up in the center in the Read panel. And so here you can see a preview, or not a preview, you can see exactly what that citation looks like in the books. And while I'm mentioning the books, Concord allows you to have access to the Bible, all of Mrs. Eddy's writings, and the Christian Science hymnal. And then again, we'll talk about lists a little bit later. One of the features is creating a list. So for those of you who are newer to Concord and haven't created a list, we'll go over how to do that, as well as for the more experienced, list makers, we will talk about some fun features that might help you out. So now that we're level set, let's go into the first feature today, which is wildcard search. And wildcard search is one that a lot of people haven't heard of before. It's kind of got a funky name, and it's best shown, not told about. So I'm going to go back into Concord here. And whenever we talk about wildcard search, we're talking about one of two characters, either the asterisk or the question mark. Oh, I threw a period in there, or the question mark. And so those are the two wildcard characters. And I'll start with the asterisk and how you would use that. So let's say you have a scenario. You're wanting to search Concord and you are not quite sure what the ending is, but you have a prefix in mind, or you have the start of a word. What you can do is you can type in kind of a prefix like LOV and then throw an asterisk at the end of your search using Shift and 8, just like that. And so when you put an asterisk in like this, it tells Concord you're looking for words that start with LOV and then have any ending. So this is a great way to expand your search. So I'll show you how it's done. So I've typed in my search here and click on the magnifying glass search icon. And now when I launch my search and open up the Bible, for instance, you can see that it'll bring back a ton of different search results. Here you can see just the simple search of LOV asterisk brought back love, loving cup, loveliness, a ton of different iterations of the word love. This is a great way to include hyphenated words as well in your search. You might be wondering, Will, what's the difference between wildcard search and stemming? Aren't those the same thing? So for those of you who haven't used stemming before, what you can do is you can type a word like love into the search bar here. And then right below the search bar, we have a search options menu. And if you click on that, you can see the very first option is called stemming search. And basically what stemming search allows you to do is it allows you to take a whole word, a complete word, turn on the stemming search here, and it will find similar type words. So when I do a search on love, my results will include examples like loved, loves, lover, and love. It'll take that word and find different similar words that relate to it. The difference between stemming and the wildcard asterisk is that with the stemming, it doesn't restrict your search as much. So with LOV asterisk here, I can actually get a lot more results because there might be some words that aren't considered similar in the minds of Concord stemming search. So here's an example of that. If I type in the word all and then do a hyphen and then the asterisk, and I'll turn off stemming here just to make it clear. When I do my search, I'll be able to see a ton of different words that begin with all hyphen. And I wouldn't be able to do a stemming search on this because these are all different words. But because they all have the same prefix here, I'm able to see each of these different search results. So I have all in all loving, all power, all absorbing, all acting. Well, all of these relate to God, but wildcard search really allows you to expand on what you might have been looking for to begin with. Another fun wildcard search, as I'll delete this, is if you know what a word starts with and ends with, but you don't really want to indicate to Concord what's in the middle. So let's say we're looking up the word motherhood or manhood, and it starts with an M. We can put in that asterisk and then type in HOOD. And so you can see now it tells Concord, I want to find a word that starts with M, has anything in the middle, and ends in hood. And so when I click on the search magnifying glass and open my results up, I get results on manhood and motherhood. So I got results on two different words effectively with one search. The other wildcard character is the question mark. Looks like that. And What's unique about the question mark is if you're looking up a specific word that might have some variation with just one letter in the word, like for instance, woman and woman. Here, what you can do, if you want to get searches on both of these words at the same time, you can use wildcard search to put a question mark in the place of that A or E. And then when you search using the magnifying glass, the results include the singular woman and the plural woman. The next feature we're going to talk about is range search. And range search is one of my favorites. So I'll just clear my search here and describe to you range search. So range search allows you to basically set parameters or guideposts for your search. Let's say you're doing a search on a common word. For instance, how about Jesus? We'll type that in. And you want to find where Jesus, Jesus appears a lot of times in all the books we have in Concord. But let's say you just want to find where the word Jesus appears in Science and Health. Range search is your tool that would help you do that. So I've got my word in the search bar, and I can click on the search options dropdown again. And then the third one down is range search. And when I enable that, it gives me the option to enter in a book name to limit my search to. So whereas wildcard search expanded my search, range search allows me to be more refined. And so I can enter in a book name like Science and Health using the abbreviations here, SH. And you can see now my search bar says Jesus with a range of Science and Health. And when I go to search by clicking the magnifying glass again, all of my results will be from Science and Health. And so I really love to use range when I know what book I'm looking for and I want to just kind of get rid of the clutter, so to say. Let's go over another range example. I'll delete Jesus this time, and let's look up the word love. But this time, instead of in Science and Health, let's look up love in the Bible. And with the Bible books, you can actually type in the individual books of the Bible. So in this box, I can type in Matthew, M-A-T-T, and then I have the option to the right of that to enter in a range or a chapter range. So I could say I want Matthew chapters 1 through 10 only, or I can just leave it blank and say I just want to find where the word love appears in Matthew. So I'll just do this search on Matthew now, and you can see all of my results are from Matthew. But what if I want to do a range search on the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Well, I can go back to my search options menu, and right below where I entered in Matthew, there's a button that says add another book. And so if you click on that, you can type in Mark, and then right below that, click on it, Luke, and then John. And so now you'll see that up here, my range is updated to include all 4 of those books. And so when I search, I get 42 Bible results, and I know they're all from the Gospels. So again, I totally recommend that all of you check out range search if you haven't at this point. Now, we wanted to try something a little bit different with this webinar, just to mix things up. We had the idea to do a little bit of Concord trivia. And so here's what's going to happen. I'm going to ask a Concord trivia question, and then we're going to take a quick break while you all think about the answer to that question, and then we'll come back and we'll continue with our program. So the question is, which synonym for God most frequently appears in Science and Health? So you can see the question on the screen now. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back. Hope you guys like that Concord trivia question. Let us know in the survey we send out if we should do that again. The answer is mind. So if you guessed mind appears 751 times in Science and Health. So back to our regular programming now. The next feature we're going to talk about is favorites. And favorites, it kind of sounds self-explanatory, but there's some really interesting things you can do with it. So the favorites button is at the very bottom of your screen. You can see it says favorites. And if I click on that, it'll show any favorite searches I have in Concord. And favorites is great for when you have a specific search that you reference often and you'd like to quickly, without having to type it in the search bar, see that search result again. And so let's demonstrate that. So I'll clear out my search and I'll type in the word healing. And then search using the return key on my keyboard. And here are my results. And actually, we did have a question that came in about these found 660 results. Where did that come from? And so anytime you do a search in Concord, no matter what, there will be a little gray text here that says how many search results there are. So yes, you could count, or you could add up all these different search results, or you could just look at this found button at the top. But anyway, back to favorites. So let's say I love to look up the word healing, and that's something I come back to again and again, and I'd like to save that as a favorite in my account. What I can do is I can click on the heart icon to the right of the search bar right here, this heart icon. And when I click on this, it'll add this search to my favorites list at the very bottom. So I'll click. There we go. And it was added to my favorite searches. And so you can see down in our favorites, we've got that search, healing, and then any settings we have on this search. So we have none. And so if I were to, I'll close out of this. If I were to clear this search now, and let's say I came in another day and I wanted to go to my favorites, I could come down to the favorite button down here, click on it, and then I could choose the search I'd like to see right now. So I can click healing, and it will launch the search for me right in Concord. And so I don't have to do any typing, which is really nice. And I don't have to remember, what was it that I was looking up again? So I really like to use favorites when I know I'm going to reference something again. Now, a little different way to use favorites is by saving your search options. So I'll go back up to the search bar here, and let's go back to our range search actually, the one we did on love. So I'll type in love, and then I'll open up the search options menu again and open up my range. And I'll add Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And you can see my range is updated. And I'll just do my search so you all can see. It's the same one we were looking at earlier. And if I were to add this search to my favorites, so I'll click the heart. When it's added here, you can see there's my search on love. It actually saves my settings. So my range settings are saved. So if I were to close out of my search up here and then come to my favorites and click on this search on love, it'll load back not only with the results, but also my settings saved. And so one trick I like to do is, what I would do is I would title this Gospel Search. And then if I save it using this heart icon, you can see whenever I come to my favorites, it'll be right here. And let's say I come in, I know I'm doing a deep dive on the Gospels and I want to do a lot of searches. Instead of having to reset my range every single time, I can come right back here and click on it. And then if I want to look up the word life, for instance, I can type that in and my settings are all there. Or I can do Jesus again and then do my search. And so adding kind of search templates is a great way to utilize favorites. This next feature, I've hyped it up. I've said it's my favorite in Concord. So here it is. I'm going to go to the daily prayer to show this one. which is in the manual, and I'll open it up. Great. Okay, so here is the daily prayer right here. And one of the things you might notice in Concord are these little book icons. There's one right up here, and there's one here. And if you see these book icons in Concord, what it tells you, this is where a scriptural quotation is. So if you're in Mrs. Eddy's writings and you see a book icon, that lets you know that in this place, she's referencing the Bible in a certain point. And so if I want to click on this, it'll tell me what she's referencing. So I know she's referencing Thy Kingdom Come here. It's in quotes. But if I click on this little book icon, it'll open up Matthew chapter 6, verse 10, which is from the Lord's Prayer. And if I click on this preview here, it'll actually take me to that citation she's referencing. So I'll click, and it will open up Concord. Sorry, it'll open up that citation. Concord's already open. And you can see there's actually a lot of little scriptural book icons here. But if I click on this one again, this Bible citation, it'll tell me where this Bible citation was referenced in Mrs. Eddy's writings. So I'll click, and you can see that she references this citation in Science and Health, in the manual, which is where we just were, miscellaneous writings, and even other books as well. So I'll go back to the manual just to show that you can go back and forth. And I definitely recommend that you keep an eye out for these little scriptural book icons. If you're not seeing them as you're scrolling through the text, they might be disabled in your Concord account. So to make sure they're enabled, you can check that out by going to your settings. So the settings is up here at the very top right-hand side of your Concord screen. And you click on Settings, then go to Reading Preferences, Scriptural Quotations, and then make sure it says Show in Books. So you'll click on that. So I'll just repeat it real quick. Settings, Reading Preferences, Scriptural Quotations, and just make sure it says Show in Books. And if you don't like these little book icons, you can hide them too. But I like to show mine. So Show in Books. So for those of you who don't like looking for these little book icons, they'd rather just see a big long list, we do have that in our Indexes section. So if you go to the Indexes tab right up here in the Study Tools panel, which is near where you search, you can click on that Index section, and you can see the two lists we have indexed. We have the list of marginal headings that you can view, as well as a list of all the scriptural quotations. So if I click right here, Scriptural Quotations, I can choose to find scriptural quotations, either a Bible citation or a citation from Mrs. Eddy's writings. So I'll open up the Bible. And then once that loads, it'll give me the option of choosing the Old Testament or New Testament. It'll load. There we go. And I'll choose the Old Testament for this example. And then let's go to Genesis. And then when I open up Genesis here, I can see a list of all the citations in the Bible where Mrs. Eddy directly references those. And so if I open up Genesis chapter 1, verse 3 here, it tells me that she actually references this citation in the Bible 7 times. And there we go. So here's the citation, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And if I click on this book, there will be 7 options. There we go. You can see the same exact list that exists here also exists here in the Scriptural Quotations Indexes section. All right. Now the fun part, in my opinion, is creating some lists. So to create a list, you're going to want to do all your work in the list panel over here on the right-hand side of the screen. And if you haven't created a list before, your Concord will look similar to mine. I don't have any lists in here. And you're going to want to look for the Create New List button. So if I click Create New List, there we go. And then I can enter in a list name. So let's just make our list with the perspective that We are creating readings for a church meeting, and we want to provide some inspiration to those we're meeting with. So how about we make our readings titled Readings on Inspiration. And then when you're done, you can click Done, and your list will be created. Just go ahead and click on Done. While mine's loading, this is a good opportunity to come over here to the search bar, and we're going to do a search to add citations to our list. And I'm going to clear out my search by clicking on this X button right here. And then I'm going to type in inspiration, because that's what we're looking for, right? So I'll type in inspiration, and then I'll launch my search. And let's open up the Bible. So there are 2 citations from the Bible that have the word inspiration in them. One from Job, one from 2 Timothy. And there are 2 main ways to add a citation to your list. You can drag and drop it using the 9 dot icons that appear to the left of all these search results here. So you see the 9 dots right here. And so you can click and hold on that and then drag it over into your list and then just release with your fingers and it will be added to your list. So here it is, Job chapter 32, verse 8. So I'll demonstrate that again. We'll go over to 2 Timothy, and we'll go over to the 9 dots to the left of the citation, click and hold. Oops, I missed it. Sometimes that happens. And then you drag it over into your list. So that's how you drag and drop. Let's pull a couple citations from Science and Health now. Okay, let's say we want this one right here. So what we can do, so we can do either the 9 dot icon, or now I'm going to introduce the next way to add a citation to your list. You can click on the 3 dot icon right to the right-hand side of the list. And so if you click on that, it'll give you some options. And under Add to Recent List should be the list we just created. So if you click on Readings on Inspiration, this citation will be directly added to your list. So if you don't like the drag and drop, this one's for you. So if I click, it'll be added right into my list. So I'll demonstrate that one more time. So if I want to add this citation here, I'll go to the 3 dot icon, I'll click, and then under Add to Recent List, I'll click on my list that we just created. If you're doing this and you don't see the list you're looking for, click on More Lists, and you'll get a list of all your lists. But since we see ours, you can click on Readings on Inspiration. Perfect. And here it is right down here. Let's add a couple hymns to this list. So we'll open up the Christian Science hymnal, and this time we'll click on one of these hymns so we can see it in the read panel. So here it is, it's highlighted in the center here. And at the very top, whenever you have a citation highlighted, we have what's called the citation builder. And the citation builder will tell you what you're looking at, like which citation is highlighted. And so here you can see we have hymn 104, the second verse is selected. And if I want to add this to my list, I can go over to the left-hand side, look for those same 9 dot icons, click and hold, and then drag over into my list. And it's been added. Let's grab one more. So I'll click on this hymn 460 here, and that'll open up in the center. And let's say I want to add this citation to this hymn 460, verse 3. Just like over in search, I can look for the 3 dot icon. I can click on that and then add to recent list. And now we've got a pretty sizable list now. We've done a good job adding some inspiration in. So that's how you build your list, really. There's 2 main ways that we'd recommend. You use that 9 dot icon, or you use the 3 dot icon. So I said I would show some fun things in lists. So for those of you who have created your list at this point and you want to reorganize things, Let's say you want to take hymn 104 and you want to move that to the top of your list. You can look for those same 9-dot icons that we were looking at earlier. Click and hold, and you can rearrange where the citation appears in your list. And when you see the green drop arrow or drop zone where you want it, you can release, and it will be moved in your list. Let's say I want to flip-flop Job and 2 Timothy. I can click and hold on the 9 dots and then rearrange. Another tool is this expand and collapse icon, kind of towards the top of your list. And when you click on this for the first time, it'll expand all your citations so you can see them in a large preview. And we're getting some reports that some people are experiencing some blurriness of their screen. If they are, they should expand their zoom window, and hopefully that should take care of it. But anyway, you click the expand icon, and that will expand all your citations, and you can see previews. And so let's just say I want to click on this citation. I can open it up here in the read panel, and I can read my list like this, or if I want to read it in context, if I click on a citation like this and get it highlighted, I can actually click the next and previous button at the very bottom of the screen, and if I hit next here, it'll actually take me to the next citation in my list. So if I click next, it'll take me right to the very next citation, and if I click next again, it'll take me right to the very next one. And so for those of you who like to import your Bible lesson into Concord, knowing about the next and previous buttons in lists can be really helpful. All right, what if you have a citation in your list, like Job chapter 32, verse 8, and you open it up and you decide, this is great, but I want to add more to it, or I want to change it. What do? Can I do that? So you can. So what I would do is, let's say I want verse 9. You can click and hold and highlight, basically, that next verse, and you'll notice up here at the citation builder, it no longer just says verse 8 is highlighted. It says Job 32, verses 8 and 9. And so now that I know that both verses are now highlighted, what I can do is I can go to the 3-dot icon on the right-hand side of the citation builder, and the very first option says Update Existing. And if I click on that, it'll actually update my citation over here in my list. So I'll click. There we go. And then it will update right here. Another way to update your citations in your list is to use this little pencil icon. So as you hover over citations, you might see these little pencils. And if you click on that, it'll allow you to edit your citation. So let's say, actually, I want verses 8, 9, and 10. I can just come in here into the search bar and make it Job chapter 32, verses 8 through 10. And then click Done. And just like that, it's updated. You can also add citations to your list with the Add Citation button down here if you have them via memory. You can add text boxes into your list, and you can even import lists of citations. And then at the very bottom of lists is this thing that says how many citations you have and what your word count is. And so if you click on this little arrow, it'll bring up a menu that will show how many citations you have by book and what your word count is by book and total. And so for those of you who are readers, or you bring lists, or you bring readings, to a meeting, and you need to have your readings last for a specific amount of time, the word count down here is a wonderful way to make sure that your lists are balanced, or that they're the right length. All right, so the last feature we're going to talk about is Print Preview. And Print Preview is the ultimate tool for reviewing and editing your lists or readings. And to get to Print Preview, first you need to be in a list. So we're already in a list here, but you want to open up a list, and then go to the 3 horizontal line menu on the top right-hand side of your list. It's the List Options menu, and click on that. And the very first option is Print Preview. So if I click on that, it'll open up a preview of what the printout would look like in my list. So here you can see an example of that printout. You have my list name and all the citations that are in my list. And then on the right-hand side here, you have the list panel still open. And that's by design. So we've created the print preview to dynamically update with your list. And so at this point, I find print preview is a great way to read and reorganize, think about how I want to reorganize my list. And so to do that, I would just come over here to my list panel. And let's say I want to take my citation here, 2 Timothy, and I want to actually alternate that with hymn 104. I want to switch the order of that. I can click and hold on the 9 dots and then move it up to the top in my list panel here. And it will dynamically update my preview. And so as I'm preparing readings or meeting notes, I like to come into print preview and reorganize my list and be able to see my list kind of in a printout in a large view, but also still have that customizability that Concord allows in the list panel. So let's keep looking at this 2 Timothy citation. Let's say I want chapter 3, verses 16 and 17. I can go to the Edit Pencil, and then I can add 17 to my citation. And when I click Done, it'll update it right here in the print preview pane. Once you're happy with how your list looks and you'd like to print, you can print by clicking on this print button towards the top of the print preview pane. Additionally, if you want to export this list as something you want to save or send to others or just have on your computer, you can click on the Export PDF button right here at the top right-hand side of your print preview. And if you click on this, it'll open up a new tab with a copy of the list and the ability to download it and print. And you can just X out of that to go back to Concord. All right, so that's everything we have to cover, all the features. At this time, we're going to transition into the questions and answers section portion of the webinar. So please submit any questions you have using the Q&A feature. And we're going to take a second so that we can get some of the questions to come in, and we'll be right back to answer those. All right, welcome back. I hope you stretched a little bit. I did. The first question is going back to print preview. So I'm going to go back into my Concord and open up print preview again. And the question they had is they saw this print settings button, this gear up here, and they wondered if we could talk about that a little bit, what some of those settings were. So I'd be happy to. So if you click on print settings, you have a number of different options. You can change the format of how the citations appear in your print preview in your list. So if I click on format here, you can see right now I'm in free-flowing format, which is basically the citations in sentence form. If I click on citation format, it'll just show the citations. So if I click, you can see now it's updated just to show the citations, not the words. All right, and if I go back up and then click on format again, and I click on book format, this will show the citations, how they would look in the book. So if I click on book format here, you'll notice that it'll show verse numbers and line numbers. Here's an example. Here's verse numbers for this Bible citation. And here's line numbers in Science and Health. I don't have an example, but it will even include marginal headings. So I'll go back to my print settings. Book format's a good one. I would say free-flowing and book format are the two most popular ones. We also have the ability to change the font size. And right now we're at an extra large font because bigger is better, right? But if you like extra small, we have that. So I'll just click on that so you can see it's really small, in my opinion. So you click, and it will update. So if you want to change it right back, we can go back to extra large. And then we have some miscellaneous options in print settings. We have the option to turn off the date. You can see there's a date right here. So if you want your list to be evergreen without a date proof of when you made it, then you can click on date here and it will remove it. I'll go back in, I'll show you a few more. You'll see with the hymn here, it shows the words and the music where that came from. And if you do not want that in your list, you can turn that off by clicking on hymn author / composer. Right now it's checked on. And if I click on that, it'll remove it. So those are some fun print settings. You should definitely check them out if you haven't yet. Let's go on to the next question. Okay, this is a good one. We have some people writing in about, they're wondering, why can I only see 2 panels in my Concord? So basically what they're seeing is something that looks like this. So you have the study tools panel and the read panel, and that's it. And if they want to open up lists, their study tools panel actually collapses. And the reason why some computers don't show all 3 panels at the same time is due to the screen size. And so if you're on a smaller laptop, that might be the reason why you're only able to see 2 at this time. If you want to try, you can try zooming out of Concord and seeing if you can open 3 that way. But we've gotten this feedback before, and it's certainly something we're working to implement into the program so that more people can have all 3 panels open at the same time. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here into Concord, and I'm just going to go over just a basic search again, just so that we talk about all the key things. So let's say I came into Concord today, and I wanted to look up the word freedom. I would just type it into the search bar, and then click on the magnifying glass, or click on return on my keyboard, and that'll launch our search. And so whenever you launch a search, it'll tell you how many search results there are. There's 76 here. And then below that, you can see the results that are from the Bible, from Science and Health, from the hymnal, and from the other writings of Mary Baker Eddy. And if I click on one of those options, like the Bible, I can see the result. Here's the citation. Here's a preview of the citation. If I click on the preview, it'll open up that citation in Concord. Okay. If I want to add this to my list, I can drag and drop using the 9-dot icon and add it anywhere I want in my list. Now let's say, well, what if I would like to copy a citation? So what if I like this one, there's moral freedom in soul, and I want to copy this and I want to paste it somewhere else. If you go to the 3-dot icon on the right-hand side of all these citations, if you click on it, it will open up a menu. And at the very top is the spot we talked about earlier, which is adding a citation to your list. But right below that, it gives you the option to copy citations. And so if you want to copy a citation directly out of Concord and into another place like your phone or an email, you can choose a copy option, a format, such as citation, free-flowing, book format, or Concord link. And when you click on one of those, it'll go to your computer and you can paste that wherever you'd like. All right, we have some range search questions. So I'm going to try and do all those in a row here. So I'll clear out my search on freedom. And the question is, if you want to have a range of Old Testament or New Testament, do you need to add all the individual books for that range? So for instance, if I want to do a range search on the Old Testament, do I have to add each book individually in the range? And no, luckily you don't have to do that unless you want to. So you can type in a word like love, and then we'll click on the search options and we'll go to the drop-down menu. And then right below, we'll go to range search and we'll enable that. And when you enable that, instead of typing in each of the individual book names, you can actually type in OT for Old Testament or NT for New Testament. And so now if I were to do a search, Concord says I want to look up the word love with a range of New Testament. And so when I search, all 156 Bible results will be from the New Testament, as you can see here. Someone asked, where do I find the shortcuts for the names of the book, such as Science and Health, or SH for Science and Health? So we do have a list of all the shortcuts, like SH, and we will send that in a follow-up email right after this. It'll be one of the resources we send, because there's a lot of different abbreviations people might not be as familiar with. So we'll send that your way. Okay, and then someone says, can I combine the two searches you talked about? Can we do a wildcard search and a range search at the same time? I'm glad you asked. Let's do it. So we'll go back into our search here, and we've got our range of New Testament. And I'm just going to delete the E again because I want to expand my search a little more. So I'll go back to our original wildcard search, LOV, and then my range is New Testament. When I search, it actually expanded my search. It added 50 search results to my results here. And so when I open them up, I'll be able to see all the different results that the wildcard search has brought. So here it includes love and loveth in Matthew, for instance. Good question. All right, now to some favorites questions. Someone asked, how do I delete a favorite? What if I change my mind? Well, yes, you can delete a favorite. We recognize that some favorite searches might not be your favorite forever, and so we've added a way to do that. So you want to go down to your favorites and click on that little button there. And look, I have two duplicates. I have two healings right here. So if I want to delete one of those, I can click on the little trash can icon right here, and it'll remove itself from my favorites list. If I want to clear all my favorites, I can click on the little X folder up here, and it will clear all my favorites. Someone asked a question kind of related. They asked, if I have favorite citations, is there a way to differentiate how those appear in my list? And so what I think they're asking is, if I have a list over here, and let's just say hymn 104 is my favorite hymn ever, which it could be, and this is my favorite. Is there a way to know if this is a favorite hymn of mine? Can I show that in some way? And we don't have a color-coded way to do that. But one thing you'll notice is if we click on this hymn and we open it up, you can see that there's actually a little highlighter icon to the left of the citation. And when I'll close out the highlight so it's not highlighted, you can see as I'm looking through the read panel, you'll start to see things that are underlined. And if you ever see the underlined text, that means you've taken this citation and you've added it to a list. And so in the case of this verse in this hymn, if I'm just scrolling the hymnal and I see, oh, I've got an underline underneath this verse, then that can tell me that I've added this to my list. And if you want to see which list the underline belongs to, that citation belongs to, you can click on that little highlighter icon and it will show you the citation and where it lives. Readings on Inspiration. All right, let's see. We have a few more questions. I think we have time for one more. Can you please show again how to change your settings to show the scriptural quotations? I'd be happy to. So again, let me just show what you're looking for here. So if I'll go back to daily prayer because I know there's a book there. So here's our citation. The viewer is asking, how do I make it so that I can see these book icons in the text? So to do that, you're going to want to go to Settings in the top right-hand side of Concord. Click on that. You'll want to click on the Reading Preferences drop-down menu. Then the Scriptural Quotation drop-down menu. And then either choose to show it, which is what I think you want, or to hide it. So if you click Show in Books, it should appear. And one thing I should have mentioned earlier is pretty much all these features we showed today, we're showing them on the computer, but most of them all work on your phone or your tablet. And so if you're using one of those devices, you should definitely try some of the things we've learned today. And boy, did an hour go quick. That's all the time we have today. If we did not answer your questions, we'll send you an email with the answer to your question. As we mentioned earlier, we're going to send a follow-up email, which will contain a replay of today's webinar, as well as some of those resources like the abbreviations for the books. And then at the very bottom of that email, easy to ignore, but it's there, is a survey. And we would love it if you took just a couple minutes to fill it out. Let us know if you like this, if we should do these again. It'd be greatly appreciated. So with this, I say thank you for loving Concord. Thanks for coming today, and we'll see you next time.